The coelacanth is the most important zoological discovery of the 20th century. It had been known to 19th century paleontologists for a very long time. And they'd already determined, from fossils, that with the bones in its pectoral and pelvic fins, it resembled a transitional form between an aquatic and a terrestrial animal.
In 1938, a South African fishing boat made headlines around the world when it captured a live coelacanth. The fossil fish had suddenly come to life, and with it, the possibility of studying its strange anatomy, including fleshy fins that resemble limbs and a primitive set of lungs.
It was long believed that coelacanths became extinct around 80 million years ago, but in 1938 a living coelacanth was discovered in the Indian Ocean. This was near the southern coast of Africa. Incredibly, these creatures have been living since the time of the dinosaurs.
We're going to tell the kids that lobe-finned fish show evolution. Yes, boys and girls, during the Devonian period, 410 million years ago, there were fish with lobe fins. What that means is a short arm and then the fin grows. Well, that's stupid, okay? The lobe-finned fish are still alive. They're called the coelacanths.
In the 1950s, it created a frenzy among researchers. Captures of specimens for the laboratory increased, and scientists were able to examine these dead specimens for evidence of an evolutionary missing link. Studies conclusively determined that today's coelacanth is not the same creature that rose to the challenge of dry land. But research has shown that it is an ancestor of these animals, a distant forefather that has remained down in the depths, adapting itself to the abyss. In the stable environment of the deep sea, its appearance has changed very little in 380 million years, as if frozen in time.
And when they found the first coelacanth in 1938, first people didn't believe it. They said it can't be true because they died millions of years ago. When they finally proved, yes, they're still here, all they said was, wow, they survived for millions of years. Never dawned on them to maybe question the whole theory. Never dawned on them.
The most famous is probably the coelacanth. This fish is ancient, and I mean like 65 million years ancient. The coelacanth was thought to be extinct, with scientists finding their giant fossils beginning in the early 19th century. Then in the late 1930s, one was actually found alive, hiding 2,300 feet below the surface of the ocean.
When Dr. Roy Mackal went to Africa and did expeditions on dinosaurs still alive in the African swamp, University of Chicago microbiology professor Dr. Roy Mackal wrote this book. He went over there twice, interviewed folks who've seen living dinosaurs.
While walking near the river with my son, he spotted something in the water. It looked like an object floating, so my son threw a stick at it. This object then started to move towards us. After 20 seconds or so, it then lifted out of the water, and that's when I saw it. I got a glimpse of what everyone had talked about. It had grey skin and it was very big, around 2 times bigger than a hippo. It had a large bulky head and a large body. We watched as it dragged itself from the bank. After this, it disappeared into the bushes. Since this encounter, I haven't seen it again.
People who've never seen a white man, when he showed them the Apatosaurus, they said, yeah, that's Mokele Mbembe. He lives out in the river. He's not friendly. Don't get close. Dr. Mackal said, fellas, that's a dinosaur. They've been dead for 70 million years. The natives said, well, we're sorry, we didn't know about that. All we know is we see them out there once in a while. So Mackal gets back, writes this book, and says, folks, there are still some dinosaurs alive in Africa. Then he says, it's amazing, they survived for 70 million years. Never will cross his brain that maybe your basic theory is wrong. That thought will never enter his mind, I don't think. It ought to. Lobe-finned fish are still alive, folks. But they said the coelacanth is an index fossil for a 40-million-year-old rock or something like that. They date the layers of rock by the fossils they contain, and then they date the fossils by the layer of rock they're in. Pure circular reasoning, pure stupidity. But they said for years, they said the coelacanth is the index fossil for this certain layer. They give it a name and an age and all that stuff. Then they found some alive swimming around the Indian Ocean. It has a short limb or arm before the fin. And they said, oh, that's proof it used to have arms and it's losing arms or it's gaining arms, whichever way, if it's vestigial or nascent. Doesn't matter. And they found some still alive. And so they said, wow, this fish survived for 38 million years. Moron. No, the earth is not millions of years old. The earth is about 6,000 years old. God created it. 4,400 years ago, there was a big flood that destroyed it. Everything has lived together in the last 6,000 years. So they're saying they find evidence that the coelacanth had lungs. Well, maybe it did. There are fish today that have lungs at certain stages of their life, and then they lose them for whatever reason. They no longer need them. Maybe it's a developmental stage. The coelacanth, a very unusual fish, lives mostly in the Indian Ocean, I believe. Maybe they've been found elsewhere. So yeah, they may find fish with lungs, and what would that prove? They were designed that way. It's really pretty simple. But they just simply do not want to confess or admit God designed anything. So they have to figure up these crazy stories about how it evolved slowly over millions of years. And you're welcome to believe whatever you want to believe. If you want to believe your grandpa was a rock, you just enjoy yourself. Don't call it science, and don't expect everybody to not laugh at you Judgment Day when God shows how dumb that was.
O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings and oppositions of science, falsely so called, which some professing have heard concerning the faith.